Good morning, students. So, talking about computer generations, I hope we discussed three generations yesterday, characteristics of three generations. So, as we discussed, some of the characteristics were increased over the generations and some of them were decreased. Before we start this today's lesson, I want something to be clarified, right? Because I have some important things to be asked. Right. Look, I have 4 or 3 questions. Anybody can answer, but listen to me carefully, right? So the first question, this is all about computer history. I don't want to drag the other things which we learned earlier. So I have some questions from computer history. Okay, so look here. The first question would be, who invented the first ever mechanical calculating device called Pascalin? Who invented the first ever calculating device called Pascalin?
Pascal.
Blaise Pascal.
Yes, Blaise Pascal. Right? Blaise Pascal, not Chinese, right? I'm not talking about abacus. So that may be a device for calculating, right? But we never call that as a mechanical calculator or something. The first ever mechanical calculator is called Pascalin. Okay, right. Second, what are the two devices invented by Charles Babbage?
Analytical engine and defense engine.
Yes, good. Analytical engine and difference engine. Okay, so he invented two different calculating devices. One is analytical and then difference. Third question. Who is the first computer programmer?
Madam Ada Augusta.
Ada Augusta Lovelace.
Yes, Ada Augusta Lovelace, or even Lady Ada, right? Lady Ada. So she wrote programs for the machines invented by Charles Babbage. Next question. So rather, I have 2 more questions, right? Next one. What is the major technology or major hardware component which was used in first generation computers?
Vacuum.
Vacuum tube.
Vacuum tube.
Yes, vacuum tubes. But in examination, you might be or you may be asked to write the major technology or sometimes major hardware, even hardware component, right? So it is actually it is the hardware, but since it is the main hardware, you can take that as a major technology. Okay, so main technology used in first generation is vacuum tubes, right? The last question would be, when the first generation is changed into second generation, some of the characteristics of the first generation computers were decreased. So what are the characteristics of first generation computers decreased when first generation is changed into second?
Less heat generation.
Heat generation.
Expensive.
No processing.
Look, wait, look, you don't need to mention like less speed or something, right? So I want the characteristic. So there is no need for, mentioning whether it is less or, high or, that is not important. So you need to mention the characteristic only. So, okay, better size, okay? Don't say that size decrease or something. The question is clear. You need to give the characteristics which were decreased from first generation to second. So size, power consumption, right? So as we discussed earlier yesterday, power consumption also decreased. Heat generation,
Faster.
right? Heat generation decreased, and also the price, right? Price decreased. Okay, so these are the questions which I wanted to ask, but there may be some other questions too, but I don't want to spend more time in asking questions, but remember them. Okay, right. So at last, we talked about third generation characteristics in the previous class. So, you know, in third generation, computers were built based on a small hardware called IC, integrated circuit. In the first generation, it was vacuum tube, then it was replaced by transistor in the second generation. Again, transistor was replaced by IC in the third generation. So I told you that when IC was used in computers, the size became small because, you know, it's a small circuit. Integrated means many circuits are integrated in a small circuit. So it is possible, or it was possible, to reduce the computer size. Okay, so this IC, changes a lot in computer history, the invention of IC, right? And also I mentioned about some of the other characteristics in third generation. More importantly, keyboard and mouse were invented or were introduced, right? In the previous years or in the previous generation, they were not found. We used punch cards and other things, but first time keyboard and mouse were introduced in third generation computers, right? And also, you know, the other characteristics, right? Those common characteristics, speed, right? Price, power consumption. So they changed. Okay, take a look at it. Okay, so IC used, it's correct, we discussed. Mouse, keyboard introduced. Yes, magnetic disks also introduced, even in the second also that is there. High level, I explained about high level languages. In the second generation, both assembly language and high level languages were used, right? So if it is high level, it would be very easy for the people to write the instruction, because high level languages use simple English words for giving instructions. So in the third generation, assembly language wasn't used. It was only high level, right? So then I also explained operating system, right? Operating system also introduced in the third generation. Operating system is a vital software for a computer. We have this operating system in unit number 5, right? That unit number 5 entirely belongs to this operating system. So we can discuss so many things, but at this moment, remember OS, we can call that as OS, operating system. So OS is must. Unlike the other softwares, you know, game or your MS Word or your Viber or WhatsApp or Zoom, these are not vital, or these are not must. These are used for some special purposes. If you want to participate in a video conferencing like this, yes, you can use Zoom. Otherwise, Zoom is not important for your computer. If it is Viber or WhatsApp, they are not must. But if you want to fulfill your need like communication, then you can install. But this is something different. Operating system is must. Without operating system, your computer doesn't work, right? So this was introduced in the third generation. Okay, so remember these characteristics. The other characteristics are same, right? So here also look, I put less heat, which means less than the first second, right? Don't think that the heat generation was very little. No, heat generated, right? But the amount of heat is similar than second generation. Always compare, right? Suppose if you are asked to write the characteristics of third generation in exam, try writing these characteristics by comparing. Compare these characteristics with the previous generation and write them. Okay, right. So small size, which means smaller than second generation, less power consumption, less than second generation, faster, which means faster than second generation, less expensive, right? Less expensive than second generation. Okay, but in the first two generations, computers were very expensive. But maybe in the third generation, the price was reduced. Okay, right. Now, see here, some of the major, during the third generation, some of the major changes occurred, right? Like the invention of keyboard, mouse, maybe OS. So these are, you know, in the history of computer, these are vital things, vital introductions, right? But even though the computers had some unwanted characteristics like heat generation, maybe, right, the power consumption. So again, the computer scientists changed this technology, right? So IC used, but they wanted to change the IC. So they replaced the IC by another type of IC called VLSI. Okay, VLSI or LSI. So actually, these are two different technologies. LSI, large scale integrated, sometimes called LSIC. Right, both are correct. Large scale integrated circuit. So it's a kind of IC, but it can perform a large amount of processing, right? So large scale integrated circuit. So here also, this may be an advanced version of it. Very large scale integration or very large scale integrated circuit. Okay, so this was the major technology in fourth generation computer. Even the modern computers, present computers also use the same idea. VLSIC and LSIC still there in the modern computers. Okay, even though there may be some new technologies available, computers still have such technology. That's the first one. Right. Even in the fourth generation also, some of the major inventions invented or taken place. Some of the major things happened, right? So I take them one by one. This is the first one. Look, you know, PC, personal computers. So nowadays, as an individual, we use computers for our day-to-day purposes, day-to-day activity, right? So like participating in an online class, typing a book, right? Listening to a music, browsing website. So we use computers for our day-to-day life. So these computers are personal computers because these are used for personal purposes. So you may use a computer which is on the desk, you know, that desktop computer. We will learn them in this unit number 2, desktop computer. And we have laptop now, right? Laptop, you can use that computer on your lap. So laptop. Even, right, in addition to these two computers, there are so many computers, right? You have smartphones, you have tablet, so many. All these varieties, all these computers are called PCs, personal computers, because all these computers can be used for personal activity, personal purpose. This personal computer was introduced during the fourth generation. So now imagine from first to third, computers were not found at home. People couldn't use computers at home. They were very expensive, right? They were very expensive. People couldn't buy them. So they were used only for special purposes. Maybe some scientific researchers, some other manufacturing. So they use it. But very first time, computers were brought home during the fourth generation. So, you know, we have two major manufacturing companies in computer, you know, Apple and IBM. So mostly these two leading companies took the responsibility to produce personal computers. They are the reasons for personal computers, right? So remember this small history behind. So personal computers were introduced during the fourth generation. That is very, very important point. And also, floppy disk, right? I will explain about floppy disk during the second unit, because in the second unit, we will have to discuss, or we will have to study about hardware components, simply about computer. So when we talk about computer, we can understand, or we can study all the parts which are attached in the computer. So floppy disk is a kind of device for storage purpose. So, nowadays we have CDs, DVDs, right? Pen drive. So, but this floppy disk introduced around this period, right? I will show you one floppy disk. Sometimes you might have seen that. Look, so this is how floppy disk looks like. A small plastic card. It is in a square shape, right? There may be some different sizes available. This is 5.25 inch, which means this side, the length of this side is 5.25 inch. This has to be inserted in your computer for storing data, like a CD, but this is different. This has different technology. We will learn. This uses some magnetic field for storing. This is also another floppy disk, 3.5 inch. So that length is 3.5. Since it's a square, you can take one side, right? 3.5 inch. So, but nowadays these floppy disks are not available because these disks do not have much capacity. So it is 1.44 MB. Those who know these MBs and KBs can understand 1.44 MB. That's the size, that's the capacity of floppy disks. Imagine if it is 1.44 MB, it's too small. Nowadays, a single photograph taken by your phone camera has the size around 4 MB, 2 MB. That's possible. One image, right? One image taken by your phone camera has the size 2 MB. Imagine if you use floppy disk nowadays, you cannot save a single image in the floppy disk because it is 1.44 MB. But your photo size is 2 MB or 4 MB. Then how can you save a single image? So that may be the reason why this is not used nowadays. Okay, no one wants to use it because you have some high capacity devices. Okay, this is not the right time to learn such things. We will learn them in unit number 2. Okay, right. So let's take the 4th generation. I have mentioned some of the 3rd generation computers. No need to memorize, right? Just only for showing them. So 3rd generation computers look such as this one, right? I have put a sample picture. So this is one of the 3rd generation computers. Look at the size. It was reduced, but still, bigger than the present computers, right? Right. So I already mentioned the first one. LSIC, large scale integrated circuit, and VLSIC, very large scale integrated circuits used as a major hardware. Floppy disks used or introduced, personal computers introduced, right? And also high capacity hard disks. You know what hard disk is, right? So nowadays we use hard disks in computers for storing the data permanently. So as we all know, we are able to store a lot of data in our computer. We store a lot of pictures, a lot of videos, right? So we simply say that we save them in the computer. Okay, you save them in the computer, but where? In the hard disk, right? So high capacity hard disks were introduced during the 4th generation. And also optical disks. So, you know, optical disk, right? The storage device which use light. They are called optical disks, such as CDs, DVDs. Okay, so again, I tell you, everything, every device will be taught in unit number 2, right? So I use the name. For some devices, I give a small introduction because sometimes they are important at this moment. But for some devices, introductions or any descriptions are not needed because it is not the right time. Remembering the name is enough. So if somebody doesn't understand the term optical, leave it, it's not an issue. But remember, optical disk means, or optical disk includes CD, DVD, that may be enough. Okay, so because they use light. And the faster computer networks. Computer networks introduced earlier, but so the speed was increased during the 4th generation. Okay, because you know they introduced the fiber optic cable and some other things, so computer network speed increased. Okay, so these are the main characteristics. Remember the first one, very important. The others also important. Personal computer, that is one of the major milestone in computer history. So that was introduced during the 4th generation. Of course, hard disk and everything is important. So in 4th generation, you need to remember so many things. Okay, right. Even I didn't mention that characteristic in my tutorial or in my slide. Sometimes that is important, even that is missed in your book. See, in the 1st generation and the 2nd generation, air conditioned was very, very important for the computer, right? Because they emit a lot of heat. Right, so that may be the reason why during the 1st generation and the 2nd generation, air conditioners were used in the computer, maybe in that particular computer room, right? They were very large and they generate a lot of heat. So you should, they must be air conditioned. But maybe in the 3rd generation, 4th generation, 5th generation, the size became small and also the heat generation limited or restricted. So no AC needed. But if you use air conditioner in your computer room, it would be better because you can maintain your computer for a longer period. But it is not must. But in the 1st and 2nd, if air conditioner wasn't used, computers cannot work, I mean, for a period. Definitely they must be broken down, right? So if you can remember that point also. All right, let's come to the last one. Right. I don't want to show the other characteristics here because you know them, right? You know what happened to the size, you know what happened to the capacity, speed, power consumption, heat generation. So I don't want to show them again and again. As a student, you can understand, right? So now, during the 4th generation, we had so many characteristics in our favor. All of them, almost all of them are in a good state, right? Look here, these new inventions there, and also, you know, the size became very small because PCs were introduced, right? Size were very small, and also power consumption less. If you use desktop computer, if you use laptop computer, you know, power consumption was very less, right? Even the heat generation. So during the 4th generation, we had good characteristics. So, you know, 4th generation lasted a long, right? I told you. Look here, in the 4th generation, 75 to 89, around 15 years. Okay, around 15 years, the 4th generation was there. But, you know, as I said earlier, there may be some issues in the duration, right? Some books says around 20 or 25, some books say 15, doesn't matter. But, you know, 15 is quite a big number, right? 15 years. Because you had some good characteristics. Almost all the characteristics are in favor. But even though we experienced good characteristics, scientists had to change the technology because they wanted a computer which can do as a human, which can work as a human. Because computers do not have intelligence, so they depend on human. You have to be there for operate the computer. You have to be there for input the data. So then only the computer works. Have you understood? So, but scientists wanted to change this idea. So they wanted a computer which looks like a human, or which looks which can perform automatically. So now look at the people, look at us. We do things, we make decisions by our own because we have some sort of intelligence. We all have intelligence. So with the help of that intelligence, we do things, we make decisions. So we make the decision at the right time. We do the things at the right time. We do the things correctly. How? We have some sort of intelligence. That intelligence is natural. Have you understood? That is a natural intelligence. We didn't get them from a device or some other technology, right? That is natural intelligence. So because of the natural intelligence, we are able to do some things. So computer scientists thought about this idea. So if a computer has such intelligence, then definitely computer too can perform like that. We do such things because we have intelligence. So what happens if a computer has such intelligence? Definitely computer also can do as people. But the problem is that is a machine that doesn't have intelligence by nature. So if it wants to get an intelligence, definitely that intelligence has to be given to the computer in an artificial manner. So this is where that artificial intelligence, that concept started. You might have heard this one. This is very famous concept in modern IT, AI, artificial intelligence, right? So this is an intelligence, but I mean producing artificially, because it's a device. You never expect an intelligence by natural. So definitely it is an artificial intelligence. So our intelligence, the human's intelligence, must be transferred or must be transformed to the machine using some technology. So if that machine gets our intelligence in an artificial manner, then definitely it will work as people. So as people, it can make decision, it can work automatically. That is possible. Have you understood? So the modern generation, the 5th generation, is based on artificial intelligence. Actually, it is not artificial intelligence. It's not a hardware component. We talked about major hardware, right? Vacuum tube, transistor, then IC, then LSIC or VLSIC. So these are major hardwares. So I'm talking about a main feature of 5th generation. This is not a hardware component. So what is the hardware component used in 5th generation? That is also a kind of IC called ULSIC, ultra large scale integrated circuit. ULSIC. So even see, from 3rd generation to 5th generation, IC was there, but that IC in different extension format. In 3rd generation, it was only IC. In 4th generation, LIC or VLSIC. That is also kind of integrated circuit. Even in the modern computers, we have IC, but that is in the name of ultra large scale integrated circuit. Ultra large, you can say that it's too big. Very large, this is ultra large. You know that term, right? Ultra means very, very big, right? So that may be the name given, right? So when you use ultra large scale integrated circuit, you can produce AI. So even the present computers, have AI in different manner. So for example, Can anyone tell me one application of artificial intelligence in the present computer? Anybody? You use computers. So can you give me one artificial intelligence application in the modern computer? It may be a smartphone, or it may be tablet or computer, laptop or desktop. Any idea? One example for artificial intelligence.
So Google Assistant.
Google search.
Google. Okay. Wait. I will. Conclude later. Any others? Look. Google Assistant. Okay, but I'm talking about the computer-related features, right? The features available in your computer. We don't want to go to the internet and check the things. Google Assistant is something related to internet. So we're discussing whether it is AI or not is not needed at this moment. So I'm talking about the features available in the computer. So we have some basic AI features in the modern computer. There may be some advanced AI features too, but I'm talking about some simple AI features. Look here, your computers have voice recognition features. Even your smartphone or some other devices have voice recognition. What is it? So whenever you want to, log in your computer, which means whenever you want to enter into your computer, right? Before some years, we used passwords, right? You can give the password, and every time when you log in, it asks the password. You have to type the password and enter. This is one method to prevent some unauthorized access, because your computer is a personal computer. You must be the person who use it, so others cannot use. So for that, for restricting the others, you put the password. But then we use that voice recognition. So you can record a voice, record a word or something, phrase in your voice. Every time when you log in, you need to speak that word, right? You need to speak in your the pitch and everything should be same. So once you pronounce that word, it understands it, your computer identifies and give the permission. If some others try, they cannot be accepted. So look here, this is a kind of AI, because look here, I take a simple example. Assume that you are inside of your home. You're inside of a home. Some of your friends are calling at the gate, but you are inside. You are unable to see them, but you are listening to their voice. You are hearing the voice. So when you hear the voice, you know that person. You can identify the person by listening or by hearing that voice, and you go to the if those voices are familiar, you go and open the door. So this is something related to intelligence. You heard that voice earlier. That voice is familiar. So when someone calls at the front gate, right? You, without seeing them directly, you immediately recognize him or her by hearing, and straight away you go and open. Am I correct? So same thing happens in my particular example, right? So when you speak the word in front of your computer knows that it is the owner comes, right? Owner comes, and immediately it opens. It gives the permission. If some other people try the word or try in their voice, computer doesn't allow. This is exactly same as my home example. So now I can say that having that feature is based on AI. That particular computer identifies you. Yes, you have to record your voice previously. That is of course right. But there may be some sort of artificial intelligence available in the computer. Try to understand, right? So it would be okay if I mention the point alone, but I am taking some time to explain the backgrounds, right? So this is the first one. Voice recognition is used in computers. That is a part of AI. And also you might have heard this facial recognition or face recognition. So your face can be recognized. So like voice, right? So when if you use the computer, or if you already registered your face in the computer, whenever you log in, you have to show the face to the computer. So when the face is shown, computer captures that and immediately identifies that it is the person and immediately gives the permission. If some unauthorized people show the face, computer doesn't allow. So this is also a kind of intelligence, right? See, as people, we recognize others by looking at their face. If the faces are familiar, we talk to them. So sometimes the faces are not familiar, so we leave them. So it is because of the intelligence, right? We have some intelligence in order to differentiate the people. So that ability is in the modern computers. If I am the owner of my computer, if I go to the computer, or if I am in front of the computer, it scans my face and immediately gives the permission. If someone tries the same thing, it doesn't. So my computer has some sort of intelligence. That is AI. Okay, so that is second feature. Even you might have heard handwriting recognition. So nowadays you can write everything in your hand, right, to the computer. Computer understands those handwritten letters and immediately translates them into digital letters. You know, everyone has a different handwriting, different way of writing. But even though you have different way of writing, computer can understand them. There may be some issues too, but computers could understand these handwriting and take them as digital characters. So for example, if I write my name, that name is in my handwriting, but the name can be converted into digital signals and a computer can understand that it is my name. This can be possible for giving, password or something. Even in your password, when you give the password, you can write something in your hand, by your hand. That handwriting handwritten letters can be converted to digital. So that is also kind of artificial intelligence, because, our handwriting is converted or is understood by a machine. How? Everyone has different handwriting patterns. But even though you have different handwriting patterns, that machine understands each and every letter written by us. So this is a kind of intelligence, right? So these are some of the artificial intelligence. Okay. So look here. I have put some of the voice recognition. So remember, this is identifying someone's voice. So facial recognition. So you have to be in front of the screen, and after some time your face is scanned and the recognition process starts. I put some random pictures, so similar pictures. See, this is handwriting recognition. Whenever you write something on the screen, right, it can be automatically converted into digital letters. Okay, so this can be handwriting recognition. Okay, sometimes the eye tracking recognition is also there. Your eyes can be tracking down or can be scanned, and by using the eyes, people can identify. There may be many, right? Look at the characteristics. First one, ultra large scale integrated circuit used as a main technology. So developed based on AI. I already mentioned AI actually not a device. AI is a technology. So when you use ULSI, it is possible to have AI, artificial intelligence. Yes, here also high level. I already told you right from the second generation, high level languages started. In the second generation, both assembly and high level languages were used together. But in the third, fourth, fifth, only high level programming languages because they are very, very familiar to the users. And user friendly interfaces in OS. This is also something sometimes it needs some explanation, but I don't want, because that interface, the word interface is in our syllabus in unit number 5. I briefly explained. So, you know, interface is nothing. It is a screen or it is a component which connects the machine and the user. For example, see, we all operate a mobile phone. So whenever you do a task in mobile phone, there may be some components, even I can call them as screen. Actually, screen is not the right word, but I'm using because without having that screen, you cannot communicate with your phone. You cannot do anything in your phone, right? So that screen or that component is called interface. Imagine you want to make a call. So now you tap on that particular icon and dial the number. Finally, you make a call. How? So that is interface. That where is that small icon in a screen or something, right? That is called interface. So if it is a computer, when you start the computer, you know, you have that colorful screen which has some small icons. We used to call them as icons. So that is interface. When you go to the ATM, on the screen, there may be some messages and some other things displayed. That is interface. So interface is nothing. It's a component which connects the user and the machine. Imagine if that ATM doesn't have that colorful screen, then how can you fulfill your task? So you use that component, right? So there every message is shown, every instruction is shown, so you follow them. So interface must be there in every software. Even if you are playing a game, that game has colorful screens, right? That is interface. So even the operating systems were introduced earlier, but some of the user friendly, which means these interfaces are very, very easy to use, right? User friendly interfaces introduced in operating systems. Right? OS means operating system. Finally, parallel processing introduced. That is also one of the major introduction, parallel processing. See, generally in a computer, at a time you can process only one thing because it has only one processor. So only single process is taken place at a time. But now during this 5th generation, it is possible to do multiple processes simultaneously, parallelly. So your computer may have more than one processors to do that. This is called multiprocessing. That feature is there. Have you understood? To do a process, to perform a process in the computer, you need processor. Even you can call that as a VLSIC or LIC or something, right? There may be hardware. So generally at a time, a single process is taken place. But now, because of this multi-processing concept, there may be more than one processes carried out at a time, right? That is available in the modern computers. Okay. Right. So these are the characteristics of 5th generation. Right. So see, this computer generation, this part seems to be big, and it seems to be confused because there may be some characteristics in every generation. So you may be confused because sometimes and at the examination, you are not sure whether keyboard and mouse were introduced in the 3rd or 4th. You have some confusions. So for avoiding such confusions, try memorizing or try remembering only few characteristics in each generation. That is enough. Major things. See, mouse, keyboard, that is must. So you should understand or you should remember the generation where mouse, keyboard introduced. If it is PC important, remember that. And those languages, where machine language introduced or where assembly, remember. And also the main technology, vacuum tube, right, transistor, IC, LSIC. So remember that order. So I don't think that the others are not important. You don't need to remember where the magnetic disk introduced or where the high capacity hard disk introduced, where these things are not important. If your school wants to ask such thing, they can, right? But if someone wants to prepare good or standard paper, definitely he or she will definitely ignore such things, right? So they have to focus on main thing. Okay, so don't think that it is too big and too lengthy. Try focusing on major things and memorizing them. Okay, right. So now in the present computers, you have AI, right? Maybe there may not be big differences between the 4th generation and the 5th generation. Even some of the books and some of the scientists may argue that the present generation is also 4th generation. In the near future, the 5th generation, comes. So there may be some argument too, because they try to argue that the artificial intelligence is not fully developed. They are available as a part of the, because voice recognition is not like ours intelligence. So we already registered our voice in the computer. So after that, whenever we speak the word, it identifies. So it is something not like ours, because we hear a lot of voices and we memorize them, or we put them in the memory, and when we hear someone's voice, we understand. But this is something different than what we do in the computer now. So that may be the reason why they avoid this generation as 5th. They still try to call this as 4th generation. Okay, we don't want to take such part, but remember, we have to stick with the book. And also most common opinion is we are in the 5th generation, right? So some people might mention that 5th generation started around 90s or something, but in your book it was earlier, right? I think in your book they mentioned this year. See, in your book 1989 to present, I think, but some books show that it starts around 1992 or 94 or something, right? Years are not matters, remembers fact. All right, so these are the things related to computer history, right? So, and also we conclude the first unit. First unit is not big, as I already told you, but I took some time, around 10 or 11 classes, because to explain such basic day-to-day life applications that may be useful for your practical life, right? Whether it is useful for exam or not, it is not a matter. Sometimes it is useful, sometimes it is not, but definitely they are very useful for your practical life. Everyone should know about MRI or CT, or everyone should know about online learning, telemedicine, right? Those plug card systems, so they are very important, right? So before we finish today's class, let's take some questions. I have displayed some of the most important things in the form of questions in the first unit. Okay, so if you are able to answer for this question, then I know that you are very good in the first unit. So you can ask yourself whether I'm capable enough for answering such questions. If you do so, then you are good. Okay, so I don't want to point the students, try answering, right? Okay, for some question I can answer, because that needs some lengthy description, but when I want the answer from you, I will mention, right? Listen, Keep watching. Look here. What is data? Give 3 examples for data. Very simple. Data are raw materials about people, places, right? Numbers, text, business transaction. Okay, that is data. Give 3 examples. Many, right? A person's age, a person's name, marks received by a student, a country's population, the number of students in a class. So everything is a data. What is information? Processed data is information. Or even you can say if data are processed in a meaningful way, information is obtained. Give 3 examples for information: weather report, progress report of a student, literacy rate of a country, the pass percentage of GCOL results. Okay, so anything, okay. Third, write 3 differences between data and information. First one, data unprocessed, information processed. Second, data are meaningless, information is meaningful. Third, data cannot be used for making decision, but information can. Okay. Fourth, what is system? Combination of components which work together to perform tasks. Right? Combination. Don't memorize anything. Components, right? They must be collection or combination. So combination of components which work together to achieve or to do specific tasks. What are the elements of system? Input, process, output. Identify the elements of a computer system. So in a computer system, we have, we use computer for different purposes. So if I take the computer for typing purpose, so I can say that elements, right? Elements of a computer system means you need to identify the input, process, and output. So if a computer, you can say that letters, numbers, these are inputs. Even video, right, image, everything can be okay, because here I didn't mention the purpose for using computer, because computer is a multi-purpose device. So these are inputs. Processing, you can say that if it is a mathematical thing, addition, right? Sometimes if it is text related thing, there may be some kind of a transformation. Transformation means some changes occurred. So anything is okay. Output, letters or numbers displayed on the screen, pictures displayed on the screen, anything okay. But this example seems to be little confused or little advanced, because fingerprint reader, ATM, right, other devices used for special purpose. But here computer is a multi-purpose device, so it is too difficult to mention the input and process, but I put it, if you can try. What is ICT? We know them, right? Different technologies needed for converting the data to information and exchanging them is ICT. How does ICT contribute to the society? So now you should write the contributions in sector by sector, as sector by sector. How does ICT contribute to the society? So write the contributions as sections, as fields: education, medicine, transportation. So it must be a very big question, never be asked like that, because if it is a question like this, you need to write all the applications of every field. It takes many pages, right? But they may ask you to write the contributions of agriculture or contributions of medicine. That may be okay, but if it is not one field, it is too tough. What is online shopping? You know that, right? Buying and selling things using internet is online shopping. 3 advantages of online shopping. We know that, right? So what are they? There are choices available. You can pick the right choice. Transportation cost is reduced. 24 hours opened, right? And also, you can make the payment for credit card payment there. So there may be many advantages. Number 11, write 4 advantages of using robotics in industry. We know that, right? We discussed hygienic, accurate, it can work 24 hours in a day, it never gets tired, right? There are some advantages. Number 12, write 3 computer control devices used in agriculture. 3 computer control devices. So which means they can be automatically controlled, like automatic weed remover, automatic insect controller, drip irrigation. You know, drip irrigation also something which is automated, right? Drip irrigation. Seedling using robotics, harvesting using robotics, everything is computer controlled. Number 13, write 4 advantages of the development of ICT. Sorry, 4 disadvantages of the development of ICT. We have many, right? Addiction to computer games, creating or building unsuitable relationship in social media such as Facebook, spreading rumors on social media in order to affect someone's life, and also so editing young girls and other females photograph in an unwanted way and blackmail them. So there may be many, right? Number 14, write 2 characteristics of computers which were increased over computer generations. We discussed, right? So increase, so speed increased and also capacity increased. And you can put the efficiency in the list, right? Efficiency. Number 15, write 4 characteristics of computers which were decreased over the years, over the generations. You know, the remaining characteristics were decreased, right? Size, price, power consumption, heat generation, right? These were decreased. Write the major technologies used in all 5 generations. You know that, right? Major hardware component. In first generation, vacuum tube. Second generation, transistor. Third generation, IC, integrated circuit. Fourth generation, VLSIC or LSIC. Okay. Fifth generation, ULSIC, ultra large scale integrated circuit. In which generation machine language was used to write programs? What is it? It is first generation. In which generation personal computers were introduced? What is it? It is fourth generation. Which invention of Charles Babbage laid the foundation for the modern computers? Analytical engine, even difference engine, right? Analytical or difference engine. What was invented by Blaise Pascal? First ever mechanical calculator called Pascaline. Even you can simply say Pascaline. Okay, Pascaline was introduced. Right, so I hope these questions are very, very easy. There is no issue at all. You can easily answer. Okay, so even in your final paper also, some maybe some question, maybe 1 or 2 questions can be asked from this area. But of course, in your first term, there may be quite a lot of questions asked because, you know, for first term, you have to face only 2 units or something. So within these 2 units, you cannot ask many questions. Sorry, you cannot ask many questions in the second unit. You have to give the weight for both units, right? So in the second unit, there is a possibility for asking many questions because it's all about computer parts. But for the first term, they try to equalize these units. So both first unit and second unit will be given same weight. Okay, right. So try studying these things. These are important. So with this, we can conclude the first unit, and in the next class, we can start the second unit. Remember, second unit is very, very important. That can affect your final exam badly. And also that is also very important for your practical life because there we will learn about computer. So that is very important for your personal life, because you use computers, so sometimes you don't know how to handle them, how to manage them. So if something goes wrong, you don't know how to, how to solve that now. You don't know how to repair that, but everything will be there in the second unit. Okay, so enough for today. We will discuss everything in the next class. Okay.